What if death isn't the end, but a doorway? Across cultures and centuries, people have stood at the edge of life. Hearts stopped, bodies still, and come back with stories. Stories of light, stories of peace, of a love that feels more real than this world. And then there are the children who remember lives they've never lived, names they were never taught, places they've never seen. Are these just the brain's final sparks or glimpses behind the veil? Tonight, we step into one of the oldest and most mysterious questions humanity has ever asked. What happens when the body shuts down, but the soul doesn't? Let's begin.
Welcome to the Oddcast Podcast.
Off the record.
I'm Blackie.
I'm Erica.
Thank you so much for being here. And if you're new to the channel, we appreciate you being here. Hit that like button, share, subscribe. It's free. Hope everybody is having a great Sunday. Just got done watching the Woodwalkers.
Yeah, they just ended the show.
Yeah, I started to sweat there. I knew they had Kumbo on. This usually go for quite a long time, but that's okay. We're never worried about it because anybody can go back and watch our show. It doesn't have to be during the live. But thank you for being here. I hope everybody's had a great Valentine's Day.
Yes, it's that weekend, and hopefully a lot of you maybe have Monday off for President's Day.
Yeah, for President's Day. That's right. Yeah, it's a big day for me. I like patriotic stuff, so that's pretty cool. Let's see, what have we got on the tenure here? Nothing. Let's see who's in chat. You need that up there. Take it. Okay. Let me bring this up here. Right now we have our chat covered. We can't see. So I see Patrick's here. Brother Gary. Donna, nice to see you. We got a bunch of people here. I'd go through them all, but we're going to go ahead and get started with the show. Oh, oops. Wow, look at that.
Okay, so
let's get started.
I have some information I'm going to read off in the beginning, but then it'll be a lot of just open chat. But I wanted to start off and say we are talking about death and certain things. So if this may be a problem to anybody, I just wanted to go ahead and give you an honest, we're not showing pictures or anything gruesome, but we will be talking about various stages of the human body. And, and we're, as always, open to chat and your experiences. So I just, if it's going to be iffy for anybody, I just wanted to go ahead and let you know that we'll be open about it.
And please remember, we are not healthcare providers.
No.
We are not doctors. We simply, that's why we post the disclaimer in the beginning. This is just a topic that a lot of people find very interesting and have questions about. And we had questions about this as well. And you don't really find a lot of answers, meaning scientific or, again, you guys know me, I'm a conspiracy theory guy. There's just a lot of places, a lot of answers you can't find regarding this subject. Obviously, our brain and our electrical system still aren't figured out. So let's go. Go ahead.
All right. So the human circuit, what happens before and after death? So in an example, we have found information on this example would be related to sudden cardiac arrest. Okay, so this would be the timeline. With death, 0 to 5 seconds after the heart stops, the blood flow to the brain drops immediately. Oxygen delivery stops. The person may feel dizzy, lightheaded, or confused. Vision may narrow, like tunnel vision example. 5 to 10 seconds after, loss of consciousness typically occurs. The brain is extremely sensitive to oxygen loss. We'll come back to that in a minute. Seizure-like muscle jerks can happen. Then on to 10 to 30 seconds after, brain activity becomes disorganized. The person is fully unconscious. Breathing may become irregular or stop. And 30 seconds beyond, neurons begin failing. If circulation is not restored, brain injury begins within 3 to 5 minutes.
Now, I don't know, we've both experienced somebody passing. We're in the presence of somebody passing, and as I'm sure a lot of you have, and a lot of these things you can, probably sound familiar, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to give you a heads up. It may trigger, memories that many of us don't want. But okay. What about the body's electrical system? So the heart's electrical failure in this example of cardiac arrest, the electrical rhythm becomes chaotic or stops entirely. No organized electrical wave and no pumping for the heart. The brain's electrical activity. There is a brief surge of synchronized brain activity actively immediately after cardiac arrest. Gamma waves burst, a spike before flatlining. This has led to speculation about near-death experiences, which we'll talk about also. You've heard where victims or patients may say that their life has flashed before their eyes. There have also been reports of heightened perception in the final seconds. So about 20 to 40 seconds without blood flow, EEG activity typically goes flat. And some reports have said what it probably feels like after cardiac arrest: warmth or detachment, peace or confusion, tunnel vision again, hearing fading fast, and I'll come back to that later, or a dreamlike state. Electricity, they say that the human body stops producing, and it's a process of the compiled energy in your body letting itself escape. That will result in heat, like a heat loss. It seems to be, from my studies, that that's the final thing to go. That's what most scientists have agreed on, that would be the final thing to go, is the heat.
And basically all they're going by is, what they see up on the wall of the machines. And it's the only really thing I think they could actually predict this stuff when we go through, when we pass or on our way.
Yeah. And what the patients or the victims can, to the best of their ability, report, what they recollect.
Yeah.
So, a lot of this, through what we've read and what we've studied, it's a science. A lot of people don't agree on the findings. It's hard for people to come together and find, a final decision on this topic, which is not shocking.
No, not at all.
We weren't really expecting, but just looking and researching what we could find. Okay. So kind of the cool part about it, which is really how we kind of flow, is that this one topic will lead into future topics for us to cover. Future multiple topics for us to cover.
There's so many ways to go. We're going to hit on some of them. She's going to talk about a lot of the, the medical end of it. And then we're going to jump around and talk about experiences. I think you saw in the thumbnail, we talk about out-of-body experiences. And I've got a few other things that we're going to chat about that are very interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss, okay, so obviously there are countless ways a human body, what can cause them to die. Some of this was based on, like electric shock, if you want to say. That seemed to have a lot of reference to this when I was trying to do the research, or that cardiac arrest that we were just talking about. So every situation, as far as what the human body does as a series, as the process of dying, is different based on, what was the cause of death. But what brought this on, some friends and I were talking the other day, and a friend said that her father had open heart surgery years ago. And he recalled that he had an out-of-body experience. And he could look over and see his body. And anyhow, I guess he had flatlined, if you want to say, during the surgery. The doctors brought him back. And he went to a follow-up appointment and confirmed that this had happened. He addressed this to the doctor, that he had this experience, and they confirmed it with him. He had already told family members, he recalled. And so that started to bring up this topic. My mom passed away following a stroke, and she lights out. The type of stroke she had, it was just lights out, and she was in a coma for several days before she passed away. And I wondered at the time, I knew better. I want to say I knew better than that, but I wondered for a moment. I was like, I wonder if she can see us here. So that's where we kind of get into the electric part of it. I wondered if she could see us in the hospital room, but she was already brain dead from the type of stroke that she had. So I'm sure there's but that's the question.
Right.
Electrically, So, but anyway, my brain was like, you see that on TV a lot. When someone passes away and then you'll see them rise up, into the air, and they overlook their body, or they overlook the room, and so that was just my question. I wondered if she could see us there. But then I thought about when I was in a coma at the age of 16. If you followed us, I'm sure most of you know, I was found without a heartbeat following a car accident when I was 16. And I personally do not recall lights out for me. I don't recall anything that happened then when they were, in their attempt of reviving me. I don't have any recollection of that. But then you hear of near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, and of course, it's never going to be the same. Every body, every situation is different. So I did not have any memory of out of body seeing anything going on. And then I was in a coma for several days. I don't remember anything. But one of the references I was going to make from what I read earlier was, like your hearing was one of the last things to go. Well, I remember after I woke from my coma, at some point afterward, my mom told me, your dad and I, we were always there, and I always talk to you because they've said that you can hear us. You were in a coma, but you could hear us. And so she played music the entire time when they were there because she knew I loved music. And so it was just those things to try to keep me, to try to save me, basically, to try to get me back and awake. But so that is kind of where, that story about my friend's father, out of body experience, and then coming back and remembering that. And then my coma, I don't remember anything. My mom's coma, she was already brain dead, so she wasn't going to make it. But every situation's different. And it just had me wondering, asking questions. Now, the other part we started talking about is like at the funeral home, and there's the body, in the casket. Have you ever, like, to me, I've had multiple experiences. I've gone to funerals since I was a little girl. It's nothing out of the ordinary for me. But I know sometimes, to me, it's looked like a body has like a haze above it. It looks kind of fuzzy, like, and I know that their lighting is different at all of the funeral homes and how they do it. But what really started me on this, that was kind of the series of thoughts. I wondered if a dead body can still hold electricity, or is that fuzzy look that I saw, is that related to vibrations or energy? That's where this came from, this covering this topic. So if anybody has any insight or experiences themselves that they, just pop it up in chat. If you feel like it could be related, or going further down the road, are ghosts electrical?
I've always thought that with the soul, because we are an electrical unit, we have an electrical system running through our body, that maybe that's our life force, and maybe that's our soul that they've always, talked about, making the, maybe your fuzziness or what happens to us are, and this is something that'll get brought up here in a bit, but we talk about when she mentions out of body experiences. I can't tell you some of the stories that I've read, some of the documentaries I've seen on this, and people describing exactly, the operating room and where things were placed in the operating room. They are in their hospital room when they're in a coma, and they can tell you who came to see them. And that stuff baffles me. And so when she talked about this subject, of doing this subject, I thought this was a great idea, because a lot of us, none of this can be proven scientifically. What do you see when somebody's in a coma in a hospital? Well, honestly, I've never been there for a coma, but I'm told that there's just a bunch of machines there keeping this person alive. And so a doctor is reading the EEGs and all these other medical machines, and that's how they come up with their, they do their research, and that's how they come up with their diagnosis, what happens to us possibly after we're dead. And now that's the medical part. But what if we're never really dead? Maybe these are just vessels, right? Maybe these are just something. What was a human suit is what Donnie Darko, that's a time travel movie, and they talk about a human suit. Maybe we are actually just these electrical units with these suits on. And when this suit dies, when the operating system of this suit goes away, we get moved on to something else. A lot of people believe heaven or hell. A lot of people believe we just keep on living. We just transfer bodies. It's wild to think about. But when you start questioning everything, like I love to do, and now she's getting to be the same way. Well, she is, but she always has been. It's just she's getting like me and even more questioning everything. You start to look at where would we go? We can't just be simply buried in the ground and then that's it.
Then Justin asked a question. it from what I read, it wouldn't be like that. So, from what I've read, one of the examples was not for a capacitor, which would be a good example, but it was like a battery. It was saying it no longer generates energy. Okay, so once the body's dead, it wouldn't generate new energy. So it's just expelling the processed gathered energy until it dies, and then it's releasing energy. But
what?
One of the things I read was like ghosts or spirits can be taking energy from humans or animals or buildings. And I know it's very open, this whole conversation, this
could jump around.
idea. So I just want to chat about it.
Well, I mean, what do we hunt? What do we do when we go to, say, when we went to Waverly Hills? People have EMF readers. People have all these different devices to read electrical currents. And we had an EMF when we were in Ohio. When we went to that cemetery, and we were there to read, electrical currents or find ghosts with this. So that's where I come up with that we are balls of energy.
Well, and then like those spears or rods,
the divining rods.
Spears, yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. That is connected to like water and stuff too, right?
Yeah. So I've never used them, but I hear they work. Some people say they work really well and they can find it. Let's see what Katie G says. There's definitely some electrical communication going on once the soul is passed on. Google cadaveric spasms. Yeah, there it is right there if you want to see how to spell it.
Oh, I got it.
Okay. Bounty Hunter Bear, in my opinion, there is a difference with comas. If your body puts you into a coma, can leave body, go places. Okay, we're going to talk on that. If medically induced coma, it's like being stuck in a controlled nightmare. I like that. Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
I do like how that's said or explained. If I had to guess, mine was a medically induced coma.
I would say it was.
Because they had used
defibrillators?
Yes, to revive me. So it was obviously after that I was in a coma for several days.
If you're new to the show, which I see we have some new people, when Erica was 16 years old, she was thrown from a car at 90 miles an hour, thrown no seatbelts through the passenger side, and they found her a ways up in the ditch, but no heartbeat. And they did what they did. She can tell you more. Obviously, I wasn't there, but took her to the hospital. She was in a coma, probably in a medical induced coma because of brain swelling and everything. So, we've talked about experiences that she might've had during, after, I should say, with like ghosts. Has she ever experienced ghosts or, creatures things contacting her, which is what you hear a lot about on these shows, these ghost hunter shows, that she has the ability now because she was, one step from death.
Which I don't disagree with. It's a definite possibility that it's related.
But she has seen things. We've talked about
since then, never before.
Right. So she's seen, shadow creatures, what we call shadow creatures. I believe she's seen the Hat Man. From what her description of what she saw, I would say that's what it was. Now, what that is, I don't know. I know the stories about what the Hat Man probably is and the ghost creatures or the shadow creatures probably are. But, again, that's something that can't be proven. So we go with what she saw, and I believe what she saw because she called me at work when she had these experiences. And I don't know, as a husband, I was like, do I come home? Do I fight these things or what am I doing? How do I fight a ghost? Anyway, but, when you start discussing all this, I know there's people I've talked to them that said they've had near death or they've talked to family members that have had out of body experiences. and you can have them in cardiac arrest. You can have them, and so there's so many different ways you can have these out of body experiences. Again, like hers, she doesn't remember anything about having one, but I've heard people that talk about they remember everything that happened. I remember I've been looking at my body, in the hospital bed or whatever. And I've heard these stories, and it always baffled me because I've always been a scientific guy. I want things proven scientifically. As I've gotten older, I've realized that sometimes science is not telling us the truth. But, and yes, Gary Spikes, you are correct. You can't have out of body experiences without near death.
Would
that's
that
where
be
they-
like if you're under anesthesia?
And I think that's
Would
a
that
lot.
be an example?
That's where they talk about lack of oxygen to your brain. Now, this is scientific, so it's not it's not proven, of course. And I'm not saying because it's scientific, it's not proven. I'm saying that they can't prove it. But lack of oxygen to your brain, I think it's called hypoxia, can cause hallucinations. Now, how do they know that? Maybe just the conditions are right that could create you seeing things. So I don't know. It's again not something that they can prove to you, or you can prove to yourself. You just kind of have to, like, this is what I saw. It actually sort of works like the cryptid community, where you saw what you saw and nobody else can tell you what you saw. So the scientists can't tell you what you saw when you're, if you're hovering above your bed looking at yourself, they can't say, well, no, you didn't. You saw it. And if you saw it, then you had to see it. Let's use that word a lot. Seesaw. I like that. Anyway.
Stop real quick, Katie G. I think there are levels to someone departing. It's as individual as the person was. I totally agree.
I also hypoxia. Thank you, Katie. I think a lot of people don't want to pass the bridge. They don't want to leave this realm. So they fight to stay. And we've heard the near-death experiences or the out-of-body experiences where people go to the light, and the lights gives them a feeling of peace. It gives them a feeling of love. And then they hear the voice that says, it's not time. You're not ready. It's not time. You've got a lot of life to live. And that's the stuff that really baffles me, because science will never be able to prove this. It's, how did they hear this? How would they even remember that they heard this stuff? Or was it just a feeling they had? There are lots of stories here that I have, just little short stories. I'll read a few.
Hold on real quick, though. We got Dr. Robinson here.
Hey, Rusty.
Hey, Rusty.
But there are famous people. Now, you guys know me, and I'm not a name dropping person. I don't care about famous people, but a lot of people know who these people are, so I use them as an example. Elizabeth Taylor had a near-death experience, and she talked about how it made her significantly more spiritual. It made her realize that there was probably a heaven and hell, or made her believe there was a heaven and hell. A lot of these people don't believe it. I mean, I can be honest with you. When I was younger, I probably didn't care. I didn't grow up in a church environment, but as I've gotten older and I've weighed things more and I've talked to more people and started reading, passages from the Bible and everything, I start to realize that maybe there's something to all of this. I have people talk to me all the time about this, and it's really quite, when I start getting into conspiracies and what's being hidden from us, a lot of what's happening and what I'm hearing from the Bible really seems to probably have come true at some point, but people are trying to hide that. And that's going to be other episodes of our show. But there are people like Gary Busey. If anybody knew Gary Busey, he was in a super bad motorcycle wreck. It changed him spiritually, completely. He was a wild child. And he was, kind of an odd looking man now, but that's what happens when you get into a serious wreck. But there's just a list of people: Tracy Morgan, Jane Seymour, these people, Sharon Stone, they all had out of body experiences, near death experiences, and it changed them emotionally and, mentally and emotionally, both. And I guess until you experience one, which we never want to experience one, we'll never know. We have to go by what they say. And Gary Spikes here,
Well, I mean, think about it. If you, as an individual, had two different experiences, they would be different.
Right. Yeah. And Gary, yeah, near death will usually change your spiritually. And I would imagine so, but not everything in your near death experiences, at least is what I'm reading of people's near death experiences, are positive. A lot of people, and I don't know what kind of person they were in real life. You know, I don't know any of these people. Maybe they were bad people, but they experience demons and they experience darkness and no feelings of love. So it kind of makes you wonder what exactly, why they experienced what they experienced. I think to me, it's when we go back to the energy thing, I think it's just like you're a machine and you drop your machine and somehow the wires get screwed up in there and your machine starts acting all goofy. I think that's what happens to people as well. Excuse me. So Katie G says, I don't know. I think those that have out of body experiences is different as somebody dying. The ones go out of body can tell you what they experienced. Those who die, well, they stay dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, if they are able to remember or what they are able to remember of that experience.
I've heard of people having stage 4 cancer and, their life flashes before their eyes. They know they're going to die. They're in the hospital. They're in hospice.
Mhm.
And then they go into a coma and then they come out of the coma and, things are changing for the better. Their cancer is going away, and we don't know it. We can't explain it. I mean,
Yeah, that's
William might
wild.
be able to help us a little bit about that since he was a cancer doctor. But it's weird to think about that.
Mhm.
It's
There are so many possibilities.
absolutely.
And there are so many more shows we could do over, branching off from this one.
We'll leave that one to William though on cancer stuff. The man that knows it. Other things that again, I'm going to stick with the crossed up circuitry in our bodies that, whatever happens when you're that close to death, whether you're short circuiting or, and I'm just using this as an example. And the reason I am is for this topic, past life experiences. Now I got into this years ago because I was watching, there was no YouTube. It was one of the entertainment shows or whatever, Entertainment Weekly. And I've since researched that episode and found out that, made sure that it was a real story. And again, do your research, people. And it was about a little boy. I think he was 8 or 9 years old. And he was telling his parents about these. They were like at an airplane museum. And he was telling them about these old World War II fighters. And he proceeded to tell them the story of how he flew one of those and crashed in the ocean, and was telling all of this about the guys that he was that were in his squadron and all of this stuff. And there's no way this kid, 9 years old, that he knew their names, the types of planes they were flying. I've seen this in so many instances where people talk about, especially with kids. And again, kids' minds are less tainted than they are when they're adults. Okay, we're not, they're not having their pineal gland or whatever gland it is screwed up by calcium and fluoride. Anyway, so they're telling these stories of past lives, and they're telling, one kid named where he lived, what his wife's name was, how many children they had. So somebody goes back, the parents were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. He couldn't have possibly. So they research it and they find out that this is all true. And this isn't the only, this case happens a lot. And you wonder, again, it goes back to why would we, how, I guess I'm having a tough time with this because how would things be different if it's not electrical, if we're not electrical beings?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to, do we just keep living over and over and over? And the reason I ask is because I believe that our planet has been here for millions of years. And I believe us as mankind lives and destroys ourselves. We start over. We live, we destroy ourselves. There are signs of it everywhere, to be honest with you, from radiation There's an area, I believe it might be in South America. It's been a long time since I watched that show, where people said that, there were craters and lots of not lots, but radiation. Could it have been a meteor hitting, or could it have been, a spot where there was maybe nuclear war? I don't know. But there are things that point to us being, what we, I'm not jumping off. This is still going to be what we know of history was created by mankind. What's the old saying? History was created by the victor. What do we know about dinosaurs? Well, we keep learning about dinosaurs every day, new things. Tyrannosaurus Rex has feathers. Well, wow, that's interesting, because nobody ever talked about that. Then we learned that chickens are the direct descendants of T-Rex and those kinds of dinosaurs. So maybe we're just all big balls of energy living over and over and over, and maybe someday we'll get it right, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
We don't seem to be that type of people.
I mean, it seems to be the picture is way too big for us to ever see.
And I got another thing I'd like to mention is deja vu. Now,
somebody else mentioned,
I know we've all had deja vu. When I was younger, I had more deja vu experiences. And again, I'm going to go back to fluoride in our water, fluoride in our toothpaste. I think there's a reason that stuff's there. It's poison. It shouldn't be there. It doesn't need to be there. My teeth are just as clean using non-fluoride toothbrush, and I'm still alive drinking non-fluoridated water, or fluoridated water. Let's say it right. But deja vu, I can remember having experiences when I was young of deja vu. And I'm like, I think I can tell you exactly what's getting ready to happen. And I'm not a seer. I don't predict the future. I can't predict the future. But there was times where I'm like, if I think hard enough, I wonder if I can tell what's going to happen next, because I know I lived this moment.
Like having a repeated dream.
Yeah. I think that's,
I know what you're talking about. Maybe.
There's also, there's obviously, we all know deja vu. There's other ones called deja. I'm going to try to pronounce these words correctly. Deja vu. Best I can do that. Okay. And that's an event already experienced or lived through. Deja senti, something already felt, perhaps triggered by a voice or music. Now, I know that for me, there are songs that I hear that remind me of when I was young. Certain things of when I was young. I don't know why the song, I forgot. Why do you remember song lyrics that you haven't heard in 20, 30 years?
Oh,
I don't know. It's something that still I question every day. Unusual memories is one. It happened apparently, but you don't know why you're remembering it. It's something that didn't stick out in your head at the time, but when you get older, you remember that memory. I think dreams and nightmares. So your dreams, recalling dreams, as a young man growing up, you would have a dream and you would be like, wake up and be like, I need to go back to that dream right now. But it doesn't happen that way, unfortunately.
Anyway, I can guess what you're talking about.
Well, you're a young man. Anyway. But a lot of the things that people wonder why we have fears and phobias. And a lot of people think that's our electrical system, our past life. We've created those fears. Maybe in another life you were attacked by spiders, or you got bit by a spider or a snake, because there's really nothing, if you don't know anything about a spider as a kid, you're not going to care. It's a spider. It's just another bug. But look how many kids are afraid of spiders, probably because of adults telling them that spiders are bad for your body. There you go. That's right, Pine Knot. Thank you for saying that. I wasn't going to go there.
I haven't seen Gutter's Pub before. Welcome to our show, and you're going to dig it. William Rusty, his show is awesome. It's very informative and entertaining, so I think you'll really dig it.
Yeah, I highly suggest it. William is I believe if I'm right, oncologist. Is that a cancer doctor? I'll let William discuss that with you or tell you that. I don't want to get anything wrong, but he's also a musician, so he combines music and stories about music and medical stuff. It's really interesting. But again, with the electrical system in our body, does it just fade like a battery, or does it
So,
move
well,
on?
and that still is a question, even though I read articles saying that it ends, but some
If it
more or
ends,
less were speculating that it carries on.
if it ends, why do we use EMF meters to find ghosts or spirits?
Some people automatically shut off any possibility, even considering any possibility of ghosts or spirits.
Well,
So
or
I think that that has something to do with it.
okay, William's right there. He just said gynecologist, oncologist. Okay, so a specific oncologist.
Gynecologic.
Yeah, specific. We'll just stop there. Specific area of the body.
But yeah, it's you can find so many
I mean, what do you?
stories or possibilities, but
What's your all general consensus? I mean, do you feel that we just, when the body's gone, it's gone? Do we put it in the ground and then that's it? Or do we come back as something else? Do we come back as somebody else? You know, I know there's cultures out there, and I believe it's the Hindus or the Buddhists that believe in reincarnation. I don't doubt anything. You know, that's their thing, and I'm not going to ever doubt what they believe. That's something that if you believe in this electrical field or this electrical unit that we are, that maybe we come back as something else. Maybe we just keep living over and over again, like I said, over and over and over again. And then somebody said until we get it right. But do we ever get it right? That's the biggest question is do we just keep living? We screw everything up.
yeah, is that are you righting a wrong? You know, what do you mean get it right? And then I think some of those are religion based too.
I'm sure. You know, a lot of religions tell you, you know, this is how it is. You die. Your spirit goes to heaven or hell.
Well, here's an exact reference on.
But I also say that heaven or hell could be just another dimension that your soul, your electric energy goes to. So yes, it would be heaven or hell. Heaven would probably be, I would love to say that it's staying here and becoming something else, but it's probably a place where, like the Garden of Eden, not Eden. What's the name of anyway, it's where you go to feel peace and move on that way. Whereas hell is probably just coming back to earth and hoping everything changes again, hoping maybe you change.
Okay. This is just something I wanted to bring up. Pine Knot comment. Is it just the younger ghosts that have electrical still? Old people's electrodes wore out and not as likely ghosts. So anytime I get the opportunity, I'm going to try to bring up my granny. She's 101 years old, and she did have an injury about 2 months ago. Other than that, she's great. She's mentally, she is with it. I adore her. But one of our conversations, we talk a lot, and this is probably about a year ago.
I will say before she gets, Granny's 101 and could carry on a conversation with all of you about anything, and she probably knows stuff.
Yeah.
She's that functional.
And she remembers what she did in the 60s and 50s, and she has so many stories. But so one of the things that she said, she had been complaining about, you know, just she doesn't complain much, but she was just going on about something that was hurting her body, understandably so. And she was like, well, I guess it's like an old car. She was like talking about the human body, and it's like with age, you know, it's just so cute.
And yes, Justin, I hope we're not,
but
I hope our spirits moved on.
but the other thing I was going to say about that, I personally don't think that ghosts would have anything to do with age. I do think that it could certainly be a fact or a matter of unfinished business. You know, and maybe that's stuff I've seen on TV. I don't know. But I do believe that some people just have so much life in them, so much energy, and motivation.
Well, think about when you've been near somebody. You've heard people say that I like being with that person. They just
Mhm.
emit so much energy. They make me feel better being with them.
Yeah. And so to me, that's a good example. That's what it would be like to me if anyone was going to have an afterlife or turn into a ghost or whatever you want to say. To me, it would be someone like that that's just so full of life, no matter what age.
Yeah, I don't think age would have anything to do except for the death part, but people die at all ages. William, here, I like this one. When does the soul
Mhm.
begin? I believe it has to be at conception. William, I will agree with you 100%. 100% on that.
Mhm.
You know, once we are formed, once we start forming in the human body, we are aware.
Mhm.
And I don't care what people say, we are aware.
I kind of think, and this is just right now, I haven't thought about this before, but the soul, maybe that's a motivating or like a basis for our personalities. Maybe that develops first, and then the reasons why we think these things or act these ways could be based on the soul that we've started to develop or been born with.
Yeah. You know, it kind of makes you wonder if that is what part of what makes you a good person and a bad person, the energy that you put off, what you emit from your body, talking about, I like being with a person because they have some kind of energy that makes me feel good. And then there's times where you are around somebody that you're just like, I don't know, I just don't trust that person. Something
Oh, yeah.
their
There's
energy,
evil.
something about their energy is off. And that's the
Mhm.
way I look at people when I meet them. I look at, well, besides a lot of things, how somebody carries themselves, smiles, not smile, but you can always feel, and as a dad, when you have a daughter that wants to start dating and you can, well, bring him home, I want to meet him. Part of that is not just how do they carry themselves, but you get a feeling about a person. I've done that in all types, from sports to just living life every day. You run into somebody that generally seems like a good person, like something about them is giving good vibes, I guess is the way you
Mhm.
would look at it. But you've all run into that person. I don't want to be around this person. They make me angry just being around them. So maybe maybe they've got their little, their electrical system in their body's off, or maybe it's just a little bit different. Again, when we did the show on frequencies,
Mhm.
some people carry higher frequencies than others, and I believe that frequency is caused by our electrical systems in our bodies. And so some carry a higher frequency and some carry a lower frequency. Um, I like to think that I carry a higher frequency.
I actually think that you do.
Oh, well, thanks.
I think
I like to make people laugh.
I think it's your comedic
I like to make people,
brain.
I've been in the past a lot. Well, you're going to find out. I was suicidal. Um, Probably after my first marriage and after the first girl I dated or first woman I dated. I was just in a really low point in my life. I had bankruptcy, all kinds of things. And I just felt like there's no reason. I wasn't thinking about my kids or anything. It was just me, selfish me. And I was there. And luckily, when I was so close, I had a friend call me out of the blue and, you know, talk me down. And ever since then, I've realized that I'm a better person than that even when I'm down and I still have depression issues, but then I've got Miss Smiley over here and makes me laugh and smile every day. And I realize that I have a reason that I'm here. And I think, that my system got so much negativity that it started to bring itself down, bring me down. And then having positive influences and positive attitudes come around lifted my system up and made me feel, like I belong, like I'm supposed to be here. So, I use the example of like Robin Williams. Here's a man that loved to make the world laugh, everybody laugh, but he was one of the most depressed people.
Mhm.
And obviously, he committed suicide, and that bothered me because I really looked up to this guy, knowing his background and everything that he was going through. But I said, I'll never do that because it's, I don't want to get into the whole suicide thing, but it's a selfish thing to do. But I think you're being positive or negative. That's part of our energies in our body. I
So
saw good vibrations there, Beach Boys.
Gutters, I don't know if you have gotten the link, but I want to bring this up for you. The Blues Doctor recommends is William's show. So that's what it'll be called. And then I'm going to share other links that Gary has shared. I'm going to post those up here. And we have Brother Billy here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We haven't gotten to individually welcome everybody, but we love to see you back.
Okay, wait a second. I see something Billy and William got
hold
something
on,
about
hold
a
on.
kilt.
I
What's going
I
on?
know. We need to get
Is Billy making
to the
fun of my
beginning
kilt?
of that.
I'll tell you what, Billy, you better not be, buddy.
I think that's where it started.
I'm on the verge of buying a Stars and Stripes kilt. So just
Here
so
we
you know.
go. It was Billy.
Okay, Billy.
You're starting it. Come on.
Skirts. I'll tell you what.
There
Anyway,
we go. Billy, does that include guys in kilts? I used to wear a kilt during Mardi Gras parades.
that's exactly what he's talking about, William.
William, are you are kilts popular at all for Mardi Gras? I
wouldn't think so. That's an Irish Scottish thing.
I know it's
just
not
something to
well,
party in.
I think it's not normally Mardi Gras, but is that a popular thing?
It's something to party in. Hey,
Oh, you know about that.
Easy to go to the
You've
restroom.
told me stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Denise. Appreciate that. I hope the whole group does, because I want everybody to be happy. We do this show. I know a lot of negative topics, and as far as
I love that.
Me with conspiracy theories, but I want people to pay attention to what's going on around them, and that's why I do it. I want people to pay attention to their world. You can keep it's your responsibility to make your world a better place. And by knowing what's going on around you and eliminating the negativity, that's how you do it. So knowing what's going on, whether it's, and go to Bobby's real quick right there about that. Demons will mess with your mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's very important to seek God. My mother tried to kill herself, and I stopped her when I was a teen.
Oh gosh.
I hate to hear that. And I'm glad you did. I'm glad you stopped her.
I'm glad you were able to.
It's when you get so dark, it's really tough to come back. I will say that it was not religion that brought me back, or God at that time. It was friendship. It was people that cared. And know that if you're in this chat, we care.
Yeah.
Everybody cares. That's why we're so happy that everybody's here. But I really hate to hear that, but I'm so glad you were there for your mother. That's why we need to be good people. Unfortunately, this world will never be like that. I, again, go back to my negativity that the people in our groups are amazing. And, there's others out there in this world that are amazing, but there's also those demons out there that are trying to destroy us and tear us down and make us feel lesser than.
Yeah. And Justin, I'm glad that you're with us. And I'm sorry you lost your
Justin.
life. I totally understand, how it's different to occupy your time. I saw my dad after my mom passed away. They were married almost 40 years. And it definitely changes everything. And I've heard, stories throughout the years, but we have so many groups and so many, like you said, podcasts that definitely helps.
That's right.
Here we go.
That's right. Us Irish gave the Scots the bagpipes. Irish Americans gave the Scots the bagpipes as a joke, and they still haven't gotten it. You know what, though? We got married with a bagpiper in the background. So I love the bagpipes. So what else we got here? So there's Jeff. What show is this Jeff sharing? Jeff, what show are you sharing there? Please. It doesn't say what it is unless it's Old Line, maybe. I don't know. But what do you,
Gary's got Old Line right here.
Okay, here's Old Line. Okay. But maybe you haven't thought about it. Maybe you have about, life and death in general. Where do we go? I know a lot of people just stop at heaven and hell, and maybe that's exactly what it is. I mean, I agree that there's heaven and hell. I think right now we're experiencing hell on earth, with heaven trying to fight back with good and evil. And that's the way I look at things. I believe there are people full of bad energy that only care about themselves, and that's it. And it's, our world, not yours. Look at everything that's going on in our country. Look at everything that's going on in the world. You've got people dividing themselves into two classifications, and it shouldn't be that way. We should all be one, but it's not. And it's done for a reason. It's done for a reason. Oh, one of the things I really like too is when I looked up birthmarks.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting topic.
And then the thing about it was, like, there was a kid who claimed he was a certain person in a past life. And this person had been shot with a shotgun in the chest by the police. And this was obviously probably 30s, 40s. This person was shot. This young man knew who he was. He was that guy that got shot. He knew where he got shot. And his birthmark was literally spots on his chest, which I thought was crazy because, he was shot. The gentleman that he's talking about got shot in the chest. So maybe that's how birthmarks can come about. I don't know. William could throw that in there being a doctor, but I don't have any real big physical birthmarks. I had one on my leg when I was a kid. I know my son had one on his forehead, but it's gone now. So maybe maybe that was some trauma that you received in another life.
Mm-hmm.
It's something interesting to think about.
I think it is.
For sure.
Okay, I think we're caught up on shows I was just posting.
Awesome.
Thank you, Gary.
And please check out those shows.
Oh, yeah.
Ash's Antics. Ash's here.
Yep. And
Did anybody share Ash's? Ash's, if nobody's put yours in, please. Again, we want to promote everybody.
Hi, Verby.
We don't even watch TV anymore. We watch
No.
We watch podcasts and certain YouTube shows, just because I just feel like there's an agenda being pushed on TV that I can't deal with. I had a great phone call the other day with somebody from one of these other shows, and it was we're going to be possibly doing a show on this subject in a couple weeks, maybe. I'm going to get this guy back. You guys all know who he is, but we're going to talk about what's going on in the world right now. And I've been wanting to do this, but I want to do it on our channel because their channels are much bigger, the people that I want to have on, and I don't want to ruin their channels or get them strikes against them.
Mm-hmm.
So us being smaller, we're less looked at. So anyway, and I don't watch TV no more. Brainwashing for me. Absolutely.
Ooh.
What do we got here? Fine, not. My dad died instantly from an accident in the hole in the back of his head. My son was born 26 years later with a white patch of hair birthmark still in it. Yoder, that's wild. I've heard not that exact, but somebody having an injury like that and then their kid or grandkid having a birthmark that way.
That is so wild.
So yeah, this is one rabbit hole that's really tough for me to jump down because you'll never figure it out.
Right.
We talk about, I think one of the emblems on our page is our symbol, and then the header is the matrix, from the matrix, the code running down. And I'm sort of a believer that we do live in a simulation. I could never explain that simulation, but it could kind of tie this up with the electrical that we're talking about. And then we move on to the next, maybe we are a program. I don't know. It's really far-fetched. It's not one I really want to jump down. And I always laugh because I don't want to be the guy, in the dark room with, sucking on a cigarette.
So you would never do that.
With all the yarn going from thing to this matches up with this and this and this. No, I don't want to be that guy. So I still want to have a life and live in the sun. Pine Knot again. When we got pregnant with him, we were young and going down a very dark path. That made us change and blame it on Dad. Okay.
Yeah, you never know. And a lot of our topics cover these types of subjects where it's inconclusive. It's just open conversation because it could be so many different causes.
We are not, we've discussed this when first night we started the show. We are not professionals in anything. We don't know jack. Okay.
We know some things.
We know things, but we'll do research. And in fact, we've been doing this now. This is what, episode 33 or 32. And I've done more research on these episodes than I ever did in school or college. Ever. I've done more homework than I've done for any of that. I've learned so much of what I would call knowledge that I just don't really need. What they would call, but jack shit. I do know jack shit. Went to school with a jack shit.
Oh, gosh.
I do that to her all the time. I always tell her I went to school with somebody that I never went to school with. But I've learned so much, and I've learned to question everything. And that's sort of our what I ask everybody. Look, we're going to give you, and yes, we all have opinions. We're going to give you a topic. We're going to talk about the topic a little bit and give you what we can. There are people that are professionals at this topic, that they have probably done documentaries and all these other things. Again, they're just fancy people giving a fancier response than what we're giving here. Okay. They're professionals. Again, nobody knows stuff for fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're just doing fancier versions of what we're doing. Our goal is to get you, if something interests you, research it, because you shouldn't believe everything I tell you, because I'm me, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Don't take that as the truth. Research it for yourself.
Right.
I guess that's kind of how I want to put
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm not going to lie to you. Everything that I read, I make sure that I run it through something else and through something else to make sure that it's, I don't give you super in-depth knowledge, because I don't have any super in-depth knowledge on any of this. Now,
it's just to get us to think.
Yeah. You throw some political stuff in my head, then we'll chat, but we won't do that now. And yes, did you see Doug and Stacy is getting sued over the Amos Miller stuff? I did not.
I wonder why.
I know that Doug and Stacy moved. Something burnt down on their property, and anyway, they ended up moving. But I'll have to check that out. Thank you, Pine Knot. We used to follow Doug and Stacy a lot.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where Doug would never let Stacy talk, and it kind of bothered me a little bit. But I've been watching them again. So I'll have to check that out. Thank you. And if nobody's ever watched Doug and Stacy, they're a couple that moved off the grid. They're self-sufficient, goats, all the chickens, and they live, she cooks most of her meal, was cooking them outside, and nothing's air conditioned. Nothing's, they do a good job.
Yeah. Same, Bobby. We haven't watched them since we lived
Yeah.
in Ohio.
Pretty much.
really.
Yeah. We watched them maybe a couple times here, but not. We could give you a list of people we watch. Most of mine now are, our former SEALs, Green Beret, Rangers, military people.
What is the show that Greg is going to be on? Greg was in chat.
Untold,
Untold
Untold podcast. And did anybody find out what time Greg was going to be on? Was he in here?
He said 7:30.
7:30?
Which that might be Eastern. I'm not sure.
No, well, Greg's
he's
Central like us,
but
so.
I don't know where the show is, if it's Central or not.
Well, hey, I know this is about as much information as we can give you on this topic. We could discuss over and over. I could go through story after story that I have about people, kids recalling past lives or out of body experiences. I thought about putting a video on here, about a 5-minute video of people talking about their past life experiences, but that's something you can do if you're interested in it. I don't want to tie up 5 minutes of time with a video when I can talk to you guys and we can get off a subject and talk about something completely different. That's what we do. But is there anything else I wanted to hit on before we check out of here? Yeah, pain. That was another one. Inexplicable pain we have. Well, that seems to be all I have. So yeah, but I don't know if you guys got to watch Woodwalkers. I think most of you were there. It was awesome. Untold Radio at 7:30. Thanks, Greg. Central. Awesome. Greg House, man of the hour there.
Yeah, you might need a nap in between your
Yeah.
shows, Greg.
Looked like you might have been doing a Yarrington during yours, but I'm not gonna throw any shade out there. I don't know. Jerry's in here. Old Line Cryptids. We have a show on Tuesdays at 8:00 Eastern or 8:15. It depends on whatever we do at that time. 9:00, 7:15 Central. Jerry, can you tell us who we have as a guest this week? While you're here, sir.
Oh, Bobby. There we go.
Yeah.
Gary's got the link to the show.
Okay.
Gutters.
There we go. Thank you, Greg, Gary. Blah, 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 blah. Another West Virginia. I know it's another West Virginia episode. Did Jerry put that, or Jeffrey did?
Oh, he said
That's
he was
sort of
sorry.
vague, but okay. No, just kidding, guys. But check us out, Old Line Cryptids. It's a good show, good people. Always have good guests. We'd love to see you there. If you get into that stuff, if you don't, you might. So check us out. You might get into it.
Thanks, Gutters.
And Gutters, thank you very much for being here. If you guys do us a favor, if you haven't liked the page yet, there's a little thumb that you can hit. Get rid of your chat, and there's a thumb. Hit that button. Share the link and subscribe to the show. We are 8 away from 200, and that's a big deal for us. Hi, Miss Verby. That's a big deal for us. We never expected to do that. So all we're trying to do is get out there, get in the algorithm, and get the show out there, and for more people to watch us, to have a good time. I think it's a good time in chat. It seems like a lot of our shows are 20 minutes long and 45 minutes of chat. So, but that's what's fun. You guys get to give us your opinions and your stories. And yeah, if anybody has any ideas for shows, I'm going to try this real quick. Oh, I don't have the set up yet, but we have an email at, you want to try typing that? No, we can't.
I can.
You gonna try it? Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna show you our email. If anybody has an idea for a show, we always have ideas. I've got binders full of ideas that I've been creating. Every time I get an idea, I type it up, and this is our. Okay, that's it. Yep. Cool. There's our email. Feel free to email us. If you have any questions about shows, we've done 32 shows now. We've talked about a lot of things, from weather manipulation to Mothman to seed preparation, seed storage.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, lots of subjects. So, and we're going to keep being that way. We're not a one subject group.
Yes,
We're going to
it's
talk
a variety.
we're going to talk about whatever the heck we want to talk about. And I think that's what makes us a little bit different. Just so you know, I'm a big fan of a show called The Y Files, and that's what he does. And if you've never seen The Y Files, I highly suggest it. It's a great show, and they do a great job. So other than that, kids, it's great to see everybody. Let's go one more minute. I still write down song ideas and spirit.
That's awesome.
William, I used to do that all the time. Write down song lyrics. I never could write the music down because I didn't know music, but I always had the music in my head. So, but I had great song lyrics. I mean, some of them were just phenomenal.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, they were the greatest.
I bet.
They would have been Led Zeppelin-esque type songs. Of course, I was into punk rock at the time, but anyway, UFO disclosure. Yes, we do want to do that. I've got that in my book.
UFO disclosure.
UFO disclosures. Talk about UFOs and why we're not talking.
I want to talk about Area 51.
Well, we can do that too. But funny, isn't it funny, Patrick? UFOs are real. Well, they tell us they're real, but nobody talks about it. It's like all been like, here it is. Bye. you know, and every day there's people coming out. Look at this picture I took. What is it? You know, and we know that AI is going to be playing a big factor into all of this. And I'm not a fan of AI. We use it for our thumbnails. I use it for our emblem, but that's about it. I don't want it knowing everything about me, which it already does. But,
Yeah,
and I did
William.
see that. I did see that new Steven Spielberg movie. Disclosure,
Awesome.
I think is what it is. Yeah, that's right. That's why you said Disclosure.
That's William. That's awesome that y'all went there, and that would be cool if you did some of your original songs. I would be curious at how you would pick your topics when you do your original songs too, if that would change in any way.
No, what's Jerry saying? Chad. What did I do, Jerry? Wait, he's got something up here. Great, Jerry. Green. Right on. Beth Duncan. There we go. She's from West Virginia. So, like Jeffrey said, this is our trifecta in the West Virginia shows. Another West Virginia experience. Thank you. Missed it. Erica had control. That's why I missed it, Jerry.
Nah, that's a lie. Fake news.
What percentage of UFO are actually created by our government? Well, you know, we can't get into the subject right now, but you are correct, Pina. How much? How much of everything is created by our government?
Well, for me, it's the level of restriction for Area 51. Why is it such a hot topic? Why is it so protected?
And why are national parks have areas that are so protected? Things that make you go,
Exactly.
For other shows. Well, anyway, everybody, thank you for being here. You know, kind of think about that, the electrical system of our body and how important it is. And, you know, think about how your body reacts when you get shocked and how you feel afterwards. Some people feel energized. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. I mean, I'm not saying going around shocking yourself all the time, but just drink coffee. That helps me. Anyway.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. We will see you next Sunday evening.
And I wanted to say, when I threw it across the floor, but just remember, we'll see you next Sunday. Stay frosty, stay aware, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week.